This is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, this is Governor Christie from New Jersey. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
Hey, it is March 1st, meteorological first day of spring. Welcome, everyone. It is Friday, and it is time for Dr. Positive Political Architect Show. Welcome back, Don, Dave. How's everyone going? Interesting week we had, right? We've had all seasons. We had springtime, we had summertime, we had fall, and we had winter.
Yeah.
Now we're going back to spring.
It seems a little cold today, a little cool when I just came in.
I'm not quite sure about the summertime, but it was nice. It was a nice day.
The day, no, we hit the day we hit like close to 70. I think it was Tuesday, Monday.
Yeah, I mean you hit 80, and I'll call it summer. It's 70. I'm still spring.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I didn't feel any summer. I
think Susan's got this. We could just rename the show, Dwight.
Yeah, D3.
We could. Actually, we could. So then what we do when Jeff comes back, because Jeff's taking care of family members right now. So I guess we had Jeff on at that point.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff could be in for a long slog. It's not easy taking care of family members, and so many things happen when your parents get older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. So it's been a busy week. Another not so great week for Joe Biden. We had the Hunter Biden, what do you call? I guess it was the secret interview because he didn't want to interview in public.
Yeah.
And it's funny how were either of you guys having little vibes back to Johnny Cochran? If the glove doesn't fit, you must quit.
Yeah,
I kind of got that vibe from his lawyer when he says, nothing new is.
Yeah.
So
I thought he wanted a public hearing, right?
I thought he wanted private because he didn't want to do maybe he wants to do a public.
I thought he wanted it originally public, but then I thought they offered him that eventually, but at first it was going to be
and then he comes to Capitol Hill. He does a little press conference on the grounds of the Capitol, which, by the way, how is he allowed to drive his SUV right up there? I guess it's good to be a Democrat, as Chris Plant would say, right? So we had that, and the big thing, I think I'm getting the impression that Joe Biden, they're kind of on the HMS Joe Biden, and they know it's going to hit the iceberg, but they're kind of like, I don't see them being able to jump off the Titanic and get on the Lusitania or something like that,
The Carpathia, I guess.
Lusitania, because I think whoever the Democrat is, they still lose, frankly. So that's why Titanic to the Lusitania.
I was saying Titanic to the Carpathia, which I guess picked up the stragglers, but no, I think he's basically done, but you never know with Trump. I mean, that's the problem we also have from our side.
Speaking of people that are done,
Nikki Haley?
I think Nikki Haley should drop out, frankly.
Yeah,
she's been in too long, Well,
I thought she would have done it before South Carolina, her home state. Is kind
of. I mean, the fact that she can't win these states with open primaries, Michigan, I believe, had an open. They've got an open primary in Michigan, and I tell you, the first results that came out, they were pretty impressive because it was like when 1% of the vote was in, she was like 41. She had like 41, 42% of the vote. And then the other results started coming in, and she lost that lead. Well, she never had the lead, but she was close. But then she really fell far.
Well, it just this year is, it's no one can really knock off Trump right now because people still want to give him another shot. They feel he did a good job, and then they also feel that he kind of is getting railroaded. So.
Yeah, he did a great job, I thought. Only problem was he couldn't stay off Twitter. And honestly, $1.74 for gas, and a guy in the White House that says a bunch of crazy things. I don't care, frankly. The economy was great. I tell you, I was at a car dealership recently, and like usually on a Saturday, or you go to a dealership or on a holiday, you go to a dealership, they're like, you got to make an appointment to see the sales guy, right? And there was nobody there really. There was only like a handful of people there, which is good for me. I think I'm wheeling a really good deal on a new vehicle right now. So, but by the way, something about people that go to the Costco's and Wheaton. How did you hit my car when I parked so far away from everyone else? That's what's holding up my deal now in the car. Is I was at the Costco's and somebody hit the side of my car on the passenger side. They scraped it. And they didn't even leave a note,
That's horrible.
Yeah.
But again, it's the Wheaton Costco, so it could have been some illegal or dreamer.
Well, I mean that's part of it. I mean the demographic of what's down there in Wheaton now is vastly different than when I grew up, and but I don't think that people, on these types of things when they scrape you, they hit you in a parking lot or whatever, when they hit an unattended car, I don't think that they're just not likely to leave notes anymore these days.
I did that once at the Staples, and I left a note. Yeah. And the guy tells me, I get a call from the guy. I go, yeah, how do you let me know what it's going to cost? I'll pay for it, right? And he goes, no, I didn't even see your note till after I buffed out the scratch.
Oh, how did he not see the note?
It was on the windshield. I put he just missed it. He was an elderly guy, but he thought it was really nice. He goes, that I left a note. He goes, nobody really leaves notes anymore. And I'm like, I was talking, because I told him I was raised right, to do that.
Well, you know what else? Speaking of that you don't do anymore. When I was first started campaigning, we would go to parking lots and we put flyers and stuff on windshields. Yeah, I don't see that anymore.
People hate that. That's why.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. So we don't do that anymore. But yeah.
But it's just, I just find it, irritating how these people don't want to bother. I just think it's really inconsiderate.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's illegal, too.
Yeah, it is. And I tell you, I called up to see if we could do, like, as I like to fast watch through Law and Order, right? Mm-hmm. So I call up the police. I go, hey, any chance we can get to the security footage to find out who did it? And they're like, unless the car was totaled, we're not going to do that.
Okay, yeah.
I guess if it was Detective Benson and whoever the other guy is, Ice-T, they would have done it for them. They would have gotten it done.
Yeah, maybe.
I was thinking like with a Tesla, Teslas have built-in cameras. Would they have captured that type of a thing?
They probably would have.
Dash cams, I guess, they can do front-facing, rear-facing, right? Mm-hmm. But if you get hit on the side, I don't know what you get out of that. But I mean, I think that's what has to happen is that you're almost if you want to protect yourself a little bit more too, is that you probably should have a dash cam of some sort anyway. Those are ubiquitous, like in Asian and South Korea and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's they kind of expect that. I guess they're continually recording or whatever, so that even at night when the car's parked, if something happens, the police will request dash cam footage from a car and everything like that. They'll look for the SD card or whatever. So, it's there's always talk about that surveillance state type of a thing like that. If you think about Great Britain and the number of cameras there, but I don't want to be surveilled everywhere I go on the one hand. On the other hand, this society is getting to be kind of out of control, and there's a lot of crime happening because we don't have cameras, we don't have ways of tracking people. If we did, it would change a lot of things in my mind.
Yeah. Honestly, I blame the education system on that also a little bit, because I remember being taught that, hey, if you do damage to somebody's property, you leave a little note saying that even if it's a minor thing, you do that. You don't run away. And I don't think they're teaching that anymore. I mean, they're not teaching stuff like that in schools anymore. They got to find room to fit in their crazy social experiment stuff they got to teach instead. But
but they could just be basic decency, It's it's kind of weird you have to teach that.
I tell you though, Don, I do. The silver lining is, it could have been the Cadillac, and that would have hurt a little bit more if they did it to the Cadillac. But that thing's got cameras everywhere. The dash, you can see the front of the car. I really need to change that to just showing the gauges and not. I don't need to see the road in front of me while I'm driving.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And but that's just my rant against how people should not be. People should always leave a note.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And I mean, the dash cams can come in handy. I mean, I'm too lazy to go get one.
Yeah,
on our cars. But they're very useful in an accident situation because.
Do they record even when the car's off though? I mean,
you can get them to record when there's off. Yeah, it depends upon the dash cam you have.
I'm gonna have to talk to bats. There
were some aftermarket type of things that had some pretty good service, but problem is that a lot of the earlier ones is that you'd pay $200 or $300 for them, and then that was all the money they got in. But people were as people recorded the footage, it was eating up more space, right? And so all of a sudden they're like, you had one stream of revenue, which is when you sell, but you didn't have the subscription revenue. So some of them went out of business. Others have charged. I mean, we're a subscription world, right? I mean, there's the doorbell cameras. If you really want continuous coverage and recording, you need to pay them and things like that. But I don't mind a lot of these things because it's not free to the companies to store the stuff, right? Somebody's got to pay for that.
I don't mind paying for that service, frankly. Do you remember, speaking of, when the first GPSs came out for cars? They were like $1,500 for a GPS. It was like the size of a brick.
And you used to go to the warehouse clubs and you'd have the Garmins and the TomTom, all these kinds of things like that. And, smartphones are now what people pretty much use unless there's something built into their car.
It's funny. Cadillac has a smart card which has the maps. You take it to the dealership, they'll upload them. I think they do it twice a year. They'll update your card with new maps, right? But I remember the sales guys telling me, nobody uses this anymore. It's a Cadillac feature, but because most people use Waze, that's what I would use Waze for it. My Yukon, if I want to use the built-in navigation, I have to pay for an OnStar subscription for that.
Yeah.
Which the previous Yukon, I didn't have to do that. Everyone's, it's like we're going to have to be renting cars, And speaking of cars, prices are dropping, by the way.
That's good,
even on used cars, the prices are dropping, and that's kind of why. That's kind of how I stumbled into the Cadillac.
Yeah, it's a good deal. I think that's good. I'm glad they're coming down because I think it was way too high what you were telling me about months ago. So
yeah, I mean, I could still find a used Cadillac for $100K, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Avis just took a huge write down on their car inventory because of the falling price of used cars. Because they do sell their cars and to refresh their fleet, but the prices that they can get have dropped below what they thought they were going to get, so they had to write off the difference, and that cost them a lot of money on their balance sheet. So it's the prices. I mean, they're still high compared to where they were a few years ago. You're not gonna find some of those super bargains. There's just a new bar that you're kind of like, okay, this is what we kind of see as a reasonable price for a car these days versus what it was before. Versus when the pandemic, I mean, just cut off the supply, it was outrageous to see people what they were charging for cars. But we are capitalists, and supply and demand drives the market for things, and it's like, if you don't like the price, then don't buy the car.
Yeah, it's just like wait, just play the waiting. It's like the waiting game. It's like you got to be willing to wait. So it's like a lot of people who were antsy in 2006 in that era where they wanted to buy a house. They're so expensive, And look what happened. If they waited 2 years, they could have bought the same house for less. When the housing crisis happened, and just like right now, the cars. I mean, Carvana, they reported a profit, but you know how they got that? They evidently discharged the debt somehow. But companies like Carvana were in real serious trouble because they were buying these cars as the prices are dropping. And that's And I think also interest rates are now coming down a little bit. They're not super high.
I think they've definitely kind of peaked, and they may drop a little bit, but no one knows what the Fed's going to do, and until then they're going to remain stubbornly high, and that's definitely choked off demand for EVs and things like that too, because it hurts anybody who has to finance anything. If you're financing a car, financing a house, the dealerships have to finance their inventory. It's a real tough go for them right now until the rates go down.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, I mean, buying a house is just so you sell your nice house that you have a lot of appreciation.
Yeah.
But where do you go in most places with that? There was a
go to Florida.
There was a time you could do. Yeah, but just be ready to spend a lot of money on your homeowner's insurance now.
Yeah,
if you can get it.
Well, I tell you, Bats just bought a house there. He bought it for pretty much a song, brand new house, in Palm Bay, and it's basically right next to Melbourne, and the way Melbourne's growing, you probably won't be able to tell the difference. It's kind of between Palm Bay and Melbourne, but you got a good deal on it. And he was telling me, and my friend was a realtor down there was telling me, goes, the prices are coming down, like in Miami and in Dade County, housing prices have fallen year over year. And he was telling me he was telling me, Dwight, you got to understand, Florida does not have the same kind of level of income that, say, the DC Metro does. Because a lot of people can't afford a $600,000 house, And that's what I know. Well, you don't call it a $600,000 house in Montgomery County, bargained.
That's true. Or McLean, or Great Falls.
McLean, Great Falls, anywhere in Fairfax County, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very expensive.
Or even Arlington County, for that matter.
Yeah, it's expensive.
I mean, Loudoun used to be the affordable county out there where a lot of young people were buying, and now that's also out of reach. You got to go to. I guess you got to go to Ashland to buy an affordable house now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's some places in Northern Virginia.
Fredericksburg is pretty pricey too.
Yeah.
Although I hear Virginia Beach is relatively affordable still.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, it's nice up there.
And so we've got also.
Well, spring training starting. How the Orioles going to do?
They're doing great. They're going all the way this year. Now that we got a ownership who's willing to pay some bucks for good players, I think we're going to be contenders this year. We'll be.
It should be. We had like one of the best records last year, right?
Yeah, we might be in the playoffs. We might not be in the playoffs, but we'll be close either way.
Yeah, but I mean, to have such a great season last season, if you don't make the playoffs, I would think that'd be a huge disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll either be first or second, I think. And, you know, we don't really know. We don't really know what the Yankees will look like. But if the Yankees stay healthy, then they'll give Orioles a run. But yeah, I mean, once new ownership really takes over, then I think that'll help the team. The Orioles are, all this tanking that these teams do. They load themselves up with all the draft prospects, and the Orioles they've just got a lot of great prospects in the system. Enough that they still have pieces to trade if necessary. So the Orioles are looking good, but they do need the new management to come in there and lock down their stars. Get those guys signed to contracts. This is where the Atlanta Braves, it's one of those things that it's a smart strategy, though there's some risk to it. When you sign your young stars to multi-year contracts and you say, I want to sign you for 6 or 7 years now, and I'm going to pay you this amount of money, which looks good at the time. It gives the player, some peace of mind, but he takes the risk that, his value would increase over that time because he plays really well. The team takes the risk that the player will flame out because not everybody, who has a great season one year will have a great season, will be the superstar for years and years to come. So, but it's worked out really well for the Braves because it gives them consistency. So,
and the good news with the Orioles also is that we don't have such a bloated payroll like other teams like the Red Sox and the Yankees.
Look, I mean, until a month or two ago, they only had one player signed and under contract, and that was the backup catcher. So they have to sign off. They have to sign the rest of the players up. They'll
and the fact that Cal Ripken is part of the organization there, frankly, I think bodes well for the Orioles.
Yeah,
they'll do smart things. It's Orioles magic.
That's good.
Yeah. So
well, I like the manager. I think the manager's good. I think he's been really good. So
and also in other news, Don, what are your thoughts on Mitch McConnell stepping aside?
Well, look, I mean, I've always said that Mitch McConnell is just like he's one of the great politicians of our time. He's been a great leader overall. I know he's been, depending upon which way the wind blows, conservatives love him at times and they hate him at times, but he's been a steady Eddie leader, and he knows how to get the votes. He knows how to.
By the way, that's the rule when you're in leadership.
Yeah, that's true.
And when you're in leadership, that's what you do. You make deals, right?
Yeah,
remember, I mean, Don, we remember when Bob Dole left the leadership role. Him and Alan Simpson left the leadership role and came to Trent Lawton. I think it was Bill Frist, who was Trent Lott's lieutenant there, the senator from Tennessee. And everyone said, "Oh yeah, Trent Lott's so much better than Bob Dole." And, then they started getting on Trent Lott just like they did on Bob Dole.
Yeah.
They go, "Oh, he's making too many deals." Well, that's the job of being in leadership. Okay, right now I know they're saying Josh Hawley and JD Vance, they're not going to be the leaders. I hate to say it. They're not, and if they are, they're going to start. It's kind of like how Speaker right now. The Speaker has made deals. I believe we have another CR. Which had that with McCarthy too, but Matt Gaetz.
Well, like you said, Dwight. I mean, you're going to have to make deals. I mean, that's the whole thing with the Senate. I mean, it's it's all about that, really.
Yeah, it's the art.
I'm not going to get 60 votes, and I just don't think that's possible either to get to 60 votes to control it. So
Mitch, like I said, I mean, he was so steady. He wasn't someone that you could accuse of being some rabid, right winger or anything like that. So he could find a way to get his people on board and not necessarily anger the Democrats or whatever, but he was able to guide things through and make things stick. So there's a skill set involved when you're in leadership, and not everybody's got that skill set. McConnell lasting as long as he did as the leader, just shows the skill set that he had. So the Republicans, I mean, this is, it was going this eventually this was going to change anyway. I mean, because Mitch was getting up there in years, but the thing will be is that will the next leader be as effective, and can he do the job for that kind of period of time? Will he be able to make it through? That it's not easy, and I think it's just so much more volatile now. They're always they're always picking away at the leaders, and so you have sniping from within your own party, and it's hard to stay in power as a leader. We saw that on the House side. McCarthy, is Mike Johnson all that much different in terms of how we're dealing with things right now than McCarthy?
No, he's not.
He's basically making the same type of deals. So that'll be another question mark for the House. Is just that the ones that that forced McCarthy out could in the next House, if the Republicans maintain the majority, there's no guarantee that Johnson remains the speaker, right? Or if they lose, that he would be the minority leader, in that sense. So we've got a lot of fickle guys in there.
And I'll tell you this: if we lose the majority, it's all by our own doing, frankly.
Yeah.
Santos was a reprobate, right? He was a horrible guy, right? But the senator from Connecticut, alleged Vietnam War veteran, who made that up, he's still in the Senate. Why did we, why with such a razor thin majority we had, why did our guys knock out? I mean, he's a horrible guy. He's going to lose anyways next year. Did you really have to get rid of it this year? You couldn't wait another 9 months or 10 months and 11 months till we have an election.
Yeah, I agree. Well, maybe they did it because they thought it would be a message to get rid of, for the Democrats in the Senate, to get rid of Menendez. But I'll say this about,
right.
He's still in the Senate too, Bob Menendez. But you notice they stopped talking about Bob Menendez, altogether.
Well, I'll say this about McConnell: two things to always praise him for, and there are other things, but I'll just go with two. Number one is keeping Merrick Garland off the Supreme Court. He didn't cave on that one, and the seat held open for Trump. So praise McConnell for that. The second thing, I forgot exactly how McConnell phrased this. Remember when they impeached Trump the first time?
Yeah.
And Nancy Pelosi was holding up the articles of impeachment because she wanted the Senate to do certain things with the trial. And McConnell, I forgot exactly how I said it, but he was very witty in response. He says, basically, this is being held up. He said, I don't even want it. And you're making demands before I receive something I don't even want. And I forgot exactly how he phrased it, but it was kind of funny when he made that point. But he's got old and his mind was starting to go, much like Biden's. And maybe he'll be the inspiration for Joe Biden that he's stepping down. Maybe Biden should say,
Joe's not going anywhere.
Huh?
Joe's not going anywhere.
Oh, and the other thing is, now that I just thought about it, with Biden, he was on this show, and I don't watch these unfunny late night shows, but on the unfunny Seth MacFarlane, I forgot the guy's name, but some late night show, and Biden had a joke. I saw a little clip of it. The thing about that, it was scripted. I'm pretty sure that was scripted. I think they told Biden what to say. And then afterwards they went out and had ice cream. But it just seems to me there's something wrong about that when you have someone on as a guest, even if it's just a comedy show, but you have to script their basic interview, your one-on-one interview. Okay, we're going to have to script this. So I think that's also pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, Joe likes his ice cream,
Yeah.
You give him ice cream, he feels
so going up better. His nose, I think.
Yeah, but it's I mean, this guy's like a walking disaster.
Yeah.
So And he's been endorsed he's been Putin endorsed. You know, let's not forget Vladimir Putin has endorsed Joe Biden.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he endorsed him. He said it himself. Joe Biden would be a much better president for Americans than Donald Trump. That's an endorsement if I've ever heard one. You know,
no, I didn't hear that. I didn't know that. Should play that out if that's the case.
You know,
it's worked out fairly well for Putin. I mean, you know, we've given Ukraine a lot of money and material to fight against Putin, but Putin's still in power, and they're holding firm against Ukraine as they try to gobble up territory. You know, no one has committed. You know, the only way to end that thing is that, you know, NATO, you know, other countries, U.S., somebody's going to have to go in there. They actually have to throw boots on the ground, because, you know, Russia will just keep throwing, you know, whatever they've got. I mean, you know, Russia, they're recruiting, you know, soldiers from Central Africa and from Cuba and things like that, just throwing money at these guys to put out on the front line. Ukraine doesn't have that luxury of being able to do that. You know, they're not a huge country. It is a war of attrition. You know, Putin can just hold out until, you know, Ukraine just doesn't have anything left. So if the U.S. and if NATO really want to preserve Ukraine in the long run, they're going to have to take that step of throwing boots on the ground, which is unfortunate. But, you know, if they don't put a show of force at some point in time, Ukraine doesn't stand a chance of surviving long term. You know, we're 2 years into this.
Well, you know what Ukraine is, though, Don? It's Cyrillic for Afghanistan.
Well, you know what strikes me is that in these 2 years, I would have thought that all the sanctions and the isolation would have hurt Russia. But apparently the Russian economy is doing fairly well. Now, that's probably because of high oil prices and gas prices. But apparently they're doing well.
Right. They found ways to sidestep it all.
Yeah. See, and that's why I think you know, we just passed a law not to sell LNG, liquefied natural gas, to our allies. You know, what is the dumbest thing I've ever heard?
Yeah, it helps Putin.
You know, if we would uncap wells, start drilling and fracking, we could drive the price of gasoline down several dollars a barrel, which would hurt the Russians.
Yeah,
frankly, if we got gasoline down to like $50 to $40 a barrel, right? Yeah. I think what was around there when Donald Trump was president, correct, Don?
Well, I mean, there was a collapse. There was an absolute collapse during the pandemic. So
yeah, that was when it went down to below zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was the futures market that was really acted wildly and crazily. But I mean, you know, oil companies need there's a certain level they need to operate at with oil. And if the price of oil falls below a certain level, they stop producing. It's just they can't. You know, it doesn't make any sense for them to do that. Then that creates a whole nother problem. So,
but you know what I didn't notice when the gas prices fell that fast in a day? None of the gas stations lowered their prices in the evening from the morning time. Like if you recall, when the gas prices was going up, the price would be something in the morning. By evening, the price would be up a few more pennies. Yeah,
I mean, if you have a lot of volatility, I don't think you're going to react to that one way or the other unless there's a huge spike. I mean, it always seems to be that, you know, if there's volatility and it's on the upside, there's no hesitation to increase the prices in anticipation that the next shipment of gas is going to cost you more. But when it drops, they just I think they're just banking that. I mean, you know, I mean, regular gas does not provide much of a profit, right? That's a low margin thing where they make pennies on the dollar, you know, for every gallon that we pump at regular. The money's made at the other levels. But so, you know, and then if you put in credit card fees, they probably are losing money by selling you that, hoping to make it back on other things. So it's not all just cut and dry there with all these things. But you know, this is what we see as consumers is what's that pump price, you know, and what's the relation to that to what we were paying before? You know, I mean, we've got a couple of cars, and we don't do a ton of driving, but I know it's annoying to have to go and fill these cars up and spend all this money, nevertheless. But I'm always checking the price. Say, where's a good price for gas, but is it somewhere convenient to me? I don't need to drive 10 miles to go save a few pennies a gallon, because you're starting negating the saving by going to
so
go
the Wawa's opens this week, right? Your Wawa's is going to open.
The Wawa is opening, March 7th.
Yeah.
I'd be there. I'd be there for the grand opening, but I'm still going through my doctor visit. So
don't waste time when they're pizza. It's horrible.
I would have lined up just to try to get the first. I'm kind of curious as to if there'll be, if they'll get that. There probably will be enough people there to, the first 100 people get a T-shirt, right? And then they're giving, I guess, coffees free all day long and doing a few other things and stuff like that. But that hopefully, that probably will have a positive impact on things.
Yeah, I tell you.
Well, Dwight, I've gotten into, because of you, Dwight, and Don, maybe to some degree, Free Fry Friday.
Well, I don't take part. No, it's Chris that does the Free Fry Friday. I got a call from Chris this morning around, honestly, maybe 7:45. Going, hey, today's Free Fry Friday. I'm like, yeah, and I don't like the fries. And what's funny is a couple weeks ago I went to get a Shamrock Shake, and he tells me how horrible all the food at McDonald's is, but yet he'll go to Chick-fil-A, which is, that's so much healthier, right? Chick-fil-A, isn't it about the same?
Probably. You know what else I use now, and I've gotten used to? Maybe you guys got me into this as well. The McDonald's app is now on my phone.
Oh, good for you. Can earn free food.
Yeah. That's actually a very good deal. I'm kicking myself because all that time that all last year, I didn't use it. And it probably would have added up.
We should use Panera. Panera's got a really good app too.
I use a lot of these different apps, and they all have different angles to them, right? Yeah. Try to attach. I try to figure out what the what the value is, on their point scale. Is it 5% or is it 2% or whatever? But I think they, if you find an average, take a Big Mac and say, okay, well, that's like 6,000 points to get a free Big Mac. But that would have cost you would have had to spend, in order to get the 6,000 points, you would have had to spend $60. But you're getting a burger that costs roughly $6. You're getting something that's close to 10%, maybe 8 or 9%, depending upon the price of the Big Mac in your area. That's not a bad return.
That really isn't that bad
for doing
airline miles.
So that's not a bad return. Chick-fil-A, I haven't really used my points over there. I've just been letting them build up. But that was great. Wendy's isn't bad. Wendy's is a little bit different in how they.
Are the points going to also fluctuate with their?
That was a little bit. That surge pricing thing. They kind of backtracked and they said that was just, their target really wasn't to raise prices. It was, the idea was that to potentially lower prices when there wasn't much demand. So they took a PR beating for that, but they said that was kind of misconstrued. I don't know. When you get beat up, you're like, that's not what we meant, right?
We forgot that April is after March. It was our April Fool's joke, but we kind of got our months confused.
Also, your promotions need to line up correctly so that things that you advertise are actually available. So for Leap Day, there were several things appeared in my my email, my inbox, about different food offers around town for different things, right? From 29-cent wings at Green Turtle, and there was a $2.29 shakes at Habit Burger. So I thought, oh, okay, let me just check this out. And so I went into the Habit Burger app, and they had no ice cream, no shakes available at all. I'm like, okay, your whole promo just failed. That
So is Habit Burger also owned by McDonald's? Because that happens at McDonald's a lot.
No, I've actually Habit Burger, wasn't it purchased by PepsiCo or something like that? I mean,
Yeah.
It was independent, and then I think Pepsi or somebody actually owns that.
The only reason I say that is because at McDonald's, their shake machines are always broken, as the McFlurry machine and the ice cream machines.
Yes, I don't know. As long as I use a Mac for this show, I think I'm not sure how I can get rid of the thumbs up. But
I might actually try the show on the Mac next week. See if I get that too.
I looked at what to do, but it seemed that the instructions were more for like if it was on your iPhone or iPad, and it wasn't really. I didn't see it where it was really specific to the Mac, and I'm like, I'll have to do more investigation, but I've been too lazy to try to figure that out because the thing that I do on Wednesday for Accuracy in Academia, for some reason I think it pops up more often here than it does when I do my thing.
Do you use StreamYard for that, or using the?
I use StreamYard, yeah, I do. I've been using StreamYard for 2 or 3 years now.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah. I only started using it when Graham Stephan started pushing it.
My thing is just that look, if you're gonna go buy food at these fast food joints and stuff like that, and they have a rewards program, sign up for it. The reward program, they're free. Yeah. So you're earning something. It's up to you whether or not you're ever going to cash them in. Only ones I don't like. I mean, remember with McDonald's, your points will eventually expire if you don't use them. So you have, and sometimes they send you a notice saying, your points will be expiring in such and such a time. So so sometimes I have points that go away on me, but
it's kind of like my vacation policies I've got. After 120 hours, it's use or lose.
Yeah, it's kind of a use it or lose it kind of a deal. So, I mean, what Wendy's does with that though is that if your points are getting close to expiration, what you do is that you go into the app and then you redeem it for something, right? You pick something that you can redeem it for, and then the redemption period, that then actually takes the points out of the account, but puts the reward in there for, I think, 2 weeks to a month for them to actually use it for that specific item. You have to be very specific, but then in essence, it kind of extends your points along the way for that. I prefer like Southwest Airlines or whatever, and where miles don't expire, points don't expire. It just makes my life a lot easier.
I mean, I used to. I don't eat enough at fast foods, but I do have all of their apps. The best one I think I found was Panera. Seems to have the best return on investment because pretty fast I can get a free cookie or a free baguette or a free whatever.
Well, they revamped theirs because before I thought it was. I know it's better now.
Yeah.
Before I wasn't too impressed with that. Before I think they weren't basing it on dollar value. They're based on number of visits, and you had to make like 7 visits to earn anything.
Yep.
Now I think it's down to 3 or 4 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the other day, I mean, I almost never go to Panera, but they sent me like $10 to use, right? And I'm like, okay, I went and ordered some pastries, picked them up on my way home from the gym. I mean, it's like I got, that was $12-13 worth of pastries I spent $3 on.
You should have gotten the kitchen sink cookie there. That is a good cookie, the kitchen sink. It's salted caramel. I think they even have pieces of pretzels in it.
Oh, that's
good. A good cookie.
I have a weakness for their muffins, the pumpkin muffin and stuff like that. And I knew Young she likes chocolate croissant, and she tells me not to buy that stuff, but I just do it anyway.
But I think they're the first ones that started selling muffin caps. And now you can get muffin caps at the supermarket. Thomas's now makes muffin caps. Which I do remember the Seinfeld, which I don't know if they were inspired by, but there's a Seinfeld episode. They were just taking cutting the caps off the muffins and giving the stuff to homeless people.
Well, I gotta say, I'm impressed with McDonald's though, because, and again, maybe this is just the one app I've seen. Maybe they're better and all, but I just think it's a really good company in a way that they're very good in marketing. The app's always very good. They give me alerts, so it just seems like a company that's really up to speed on things.
And I mean, look, there's different things that happen, like what is it? Sometimes there's the promos when the Wizards win.
Yeah, that's right.
I think isn't a Big Mac $1 or something like that?
I think so. I think they got a good deal like that too. Yeah. So that's a good deal.
The only thing, it's a safe deal for McDonald's because the Wizards have only won 9 games this year.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. All right, well, good.
That many, Don?
Huh?
Has it been that many? 9 games?
I mean, they're pretty neck and neck as being the worst team in the NBA this year.
Did you hear? You remember this was years ago? Maybe it was the Redskins, but Papa John's or someone had a deal.
Yeah, Papa John's. It was with the Redskins. Yeah, Papa John's.
They had some sort of deal, and the Redskins just blew it out. They had one Sunday that they just kicked butt, and they ran up the score. And I'd heard that financially,
and they still lost.
They took a real hit, a huge loss, because they were giving all these pizzas away.
Yeah, they had different things about what the price of the pizza was, or how many toppings you could get, or whatever, based on the points scored. Yeah. I mean, when the team was halfway decent, that was not it drove business, but maybe to a loss to some extent. The way the team plays lately, not a real high risk for anybody to partner with them.
Well, speaking of the Redskins, the FedEx has decided to dissolve their relationship with the Redskins. Really? Yeah, it's gonna be something else stadium. Maybe it'll be.
Well, what else are they gonna? Yeah, but what else are they gonna do with it? Well, I guess the Redskins will be there. Commanders will be there for a little longer, but.
Well, I tell you, what I really want McCormick Spice to be get the new naming rights, so it can be Old Bay Stadium.
Yeah.
Didn't McCormick also sponsor a bowl game several years ago? It was the McCormick Spice Bowl or something like that.
I don't remember. No, I don't remember it. Maybe.
But and so CPAC was last week. A lot of it. I understand that you had a few rabble rousers, like people coming up and dressed in Klan suits, and then they were arrested, rightly so.
Was that a Lincoln Project thing?
Yeah, and Fuentes. People were there.
Okay, a real. I thought maybe it was a.
No.
All right.
But yeah, there was a guy without a hood on in a Klan suit who got arrested. It's like, you clowns, you're not welcome in the conservative movement, frankly.
Man, it's weird.
And,
I mean, look, if CPAC was really interested in keeping, they could keep the crazies out if they really wanted to, but they don't. They have no interest in doing so, and then the media is always there, right? And so so it gets magnified by the left wing media, and
we've always had crazy people that show up. Remember that time when Larry Klayman showed up at CPAC and started talking? Oh wait, he was invited. No, but I remember in 2000 when I was still working for ACU CPAC, all the Ron Paul bots showed up, and vote for in the straw poll, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys are idiots. Get out of here. These people, they were like annoying as all hell, frankly. Yeah. And by the way, everyone talks about how CPAC is in the tank for President Trump. They were also they support all Republican. I mean, they were in for George W. Bush when he was president.
Yeah.
I mean, Dick Cheney used to speak at CPAC all the time when he was vice president. So let's not forget, CPAC is a business, and they got to pay for it, and I think Matt Schlapp's done a great job. a day and night difference from when David Keene was running ACU CPAC. Matt Schlapp's done a tremendous job, frankly.
Well, when I first started going, it was David Keene. He was.
I know. When I was working for him, it was David Keene.
Okay.
And
I mean, we know this. The straw poll is all based on who's there, right? I mean, it's never going to be a scientific poll. You can't. There's no credence really that should be lent to that whatsoever. You know, we saw that in the old Mitt Romney, Sam Brownback days and whatever. They would just bring in busloads of people to vote in the straw poll, and
they still lost to Ron Paul.
Yeah, you know, that's what they did for a long time. So, you know, I mean, you know, why was Nikki Haley at the bottom? Because there were no, you know, there wasn't anybody that was, you know, the Nikki Haley type supporters were there. What was in it for them to be at CPAC at this point in time? This was a Trump love fest kind of a thing. From a monetary standpoint, it makes all the sense in the world for CPAC. CPAC is basically let themselves be co-opted by the Trump. Now, what happens when Trump, you know, either
Mm-hmm.
loses in November or is no longer in office after he serves another term? That would be more interesting to me, because they've just spent so much time and energy letting Trump, you know, basically rule the roost, you know, and it's his agenda more or less is throughout CPAC. I attended enough CPACs in my earlier days. Now I'm looking at it, I was like, I don't recognize this organization anymore, this event, and I wouldn't.
Remember, a top tier sponsorship used to be $2,000 at CPAC.
Yeah.
Wow. Now you can't even get an exhibitor table for $2,000.
Oh yeah, I heard it's very expensive. I talked to another author. I won't mention who, but an author said he lost a good amount of money at the CPAC because he bought the table and all, and he was saying it was just almost too expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of. But here's the thing: CPAC.
Yeah, I don't think as an author, I don't think you can make your money back at CPAC.
Yeah, probably not. I think you're right.
The numbers don't work.
Yeah, probably not.
I mean, I hate to say it, you could even be, you know, a tier 1 author, right? That everybody goes, God, you could be, you'll be Karl Rove, and you still wouldn't make money there.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah.
Although I don't think Karl Rove would be welcomed at CPAC anymore.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, he used to be a regular at CPAC back in the day.
Oh, was he? Okay. Yeah.
And I tell you this, you know, CPAC, I don't think they've been co-opted by the Trump people. I think they just know how to read the tea leaves. Okay. Yeah. And I'm willing to bet, you know, after let's say Donald Trump were to pick, let's say, I don't know, Brian Kemp as his running mate, and Brian Kemp is the nominee in 4 years. It'll all be in for Brian Kemp.
Yeah.
Well,
and you made the point earlier by saying that they were behind George W. Well, I mean, he's totally different than Trump, but they're behind Trump because, like you said, I think they read the tea leaves.
I remember they also liked Steve Goldsmith when he was running for U.S. Senate.
I don't remember that.
96. They were all in for Steve Goldsmith because he was running for Senate against Evan. It was an open Senate seat. Evan Bayh. They all liked Patrick Rooney of Gold Rule Insurance at first.
Okay.
But then they kind of lost favor with Pat Rooney and shifted to Steve Goldsmith. And Steve Goldsmith is like, you know, he's your traditional textbook Republican. Some might call him establishment.
Okay.
You know, former mayor of, I believe he was mayor of Indianapolis, I think, was it? Or
oh, yeah, I think so. Now that you mention it, I think I didn't know who you were talking about. Yeah.
But Steve Goldsmith was also chair. I think he was chair of the Bush campaign in Indiana when Bush ran in 2000.
Maybe so.
But I think it's what do you call? I mean, they'll be for whoever. I mean, they also loved Sarah Palin, if you recall, the CPAC after.
Yep, that's true.
And I remember when Donald Trump got booed at CPAC.
Oh, really?
You guys remember that in 2016 when he came to CPAC? I think he was booed there at CPAC.
For why? Why? What did he say?
He wasn't an authentic Republican. He was never.
Yeah, well, that's true.
But it's true. I mean, that's the thing about it. Like, this is supposed to be the conservative political action conference. Trump is not a conservative by by my definition, my beliefs are, I'll vote for him as president. I don't really, I don't care for his personality.
It's about getting the Republican elected. We're going to vote for Donald Trump. I mean, he'd be far better than Joe Biden or whoever crazy Democrats. Just like I tell everyone in Maryland, if Larry Hogan's our nominee for U.S. Senate, you need to vote for him because he'll be better than Angela Awfulbrooks or David Crone.
Absolutely, and
and Democrats running for that Senate seat.
And we need the seat. You need the majority.
Yeah,
we need the majority.
And Hogan gives us a chance to get there.
Yeah. And Hogan's not going to be as bad as Mac Mathias or J. Glenn Bell. I mean, a lot of people have forgotten when Mac Mathias was a very liberal Republican. I remember. Do you remember Paul's secretary, the one she got married like right around back in 98, 97, 98, that time period? She was, I think, Korean. I forget her name, but she was getting married, and it was her last day, so we were taking her out. And Paul came, and Dick Dimon came, and I was only been working for Free Congress NAT for about maybe 2 weeks, and I'm sitting right across from Paul.
Yeah.
And Paul, I start make conversation with Paul because you don't want to be rude, not talk to the guy. So I go, when I was working with Paul, I always had to stop myself from calling him Mr. Wyrick.
Okay.
It was always Paul.
Okay.
And so I go, Paul, so what do you think of our, Maryland Republicans? I go, we had 2 senators. I know Mac Mathias was a uber liberal. What about Jay Glenn Bell? He was marginally better, and that's a very thin margin. He said is better than Mac Mathias.
Yeah.
And we talked about Connie Morella, and but here's the thing. Paul understood sometimes you had to go with the Republican the Republican that could actually win, opposed to ideals. I mean, I remember in Virginia, a lot of the Republican leadership did not support Mark Early for governor. Remember, a lot of them lined up behind Hagel.
Yep, Hager.
Hager, yeah. And
the thing with Early, I think he had a few votes pro-labor. They were concerned that he might not be.
Oh, yeah. Well, who was all in for Early was Dick Dingman.
Okay, yeah.
And,
I remember that. But Early was generally good overall.
He was not a bad AG. He did a great job, I thought. He was fine. I wish he would have tried to run for governor again or something like that. He didn't lose by that big of a margin,
Yeah, his son is in the House of Delegates, Mark Early Jr.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that, which I think is great that he's running. We got another Early.
Yeah. Vote early and often.
Yeah. Yeah. And remember, Coleman Andrews was the guy Coleman Andrews ran for lieutenant governor. He was actually probably would have won that primary, but he
dropped out. I don't know why. I remember he dropped out.
Yeah, there was a bimbo eruption. That's why he dropped out.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
He had a lot of money, I think.
Yeah. But in addition, we're close to.
I think we're almost time, aren't we?
We're 3 minutes away from. So let's do final thoughts. Let's start with you, David. Final thoughts. Go.
Well, I'm working on my sequel, the book. The reason I want to do it is I want to be more positive this time. And of course, the last novel was written more of a darker period. This novel will be a little more optimistic, and also I want to tie up some loose ends. The novel brings down the governor finally, and so he gets his comeuppance. So I want to do that. I want to do that just because it feels better for me. I want to be more positive this time, and so that's the way I'm going to go for it. But I'm up to like 17,000 words, so that 18,000. So that gets you up to a novella level. Apparently, a short story is a matter of thousands. You get up to like 18,000. You're like into a novella length, 18 to 40,000 they say is novella, and then a 40,000 and beyond is like a novel. In the case of Great Gatsby, which was a short book, and that was 40.
Excuse me, Great
7,000
Gatsby.
words.
It was too long.
Oh, you thought it was too long? Thank you, Susan.
Well,
then you'll like the novel, but you thought it was too long. Gatsby is considered more on the shorter end of a novel.
Yeah.
But
you know what I used to call it? The Great Gatsby? Escape from Insomnia. That's what I called that.
Oh, you didn't like it?
No, I did not like it.
F. Scott Fitzgerald, who's a Marylander, by the way, from Baltimore, he wrote that, and it is very economically written because he tells such a big story really in a small amount of time. So, I mean, in just a few amount of words and pages. But so anyway, that's my thing now. And, it's kind of a weird thing in this that it's not particularly productive maybe of me. And I don't know that it would be a good financial move, but I just have this idea and I'm just going to go ahead and get it out and just try to get it out of my system. And then I think hopefully that makes it feel a little better, get that done. But I just want to get that done sort of. And it just feels to me that there's something I still have to do and prove. And also I learn as I write. And so that's also a challenge because I know I can do better and I can use a different writing style. I'm going to use a different writing style. So anyway, that's what I'm kind of focusing on.
I should have you take all my articles for Dr. Politics and turn that into a book.
Yeah.
It saves me the trouble of doing all that.
Well, a lot of these talk show hosts, they crank out all these books, but you see, it's easier for them because they've got their own monologues. And so when you write it, who knows, maybe you could have your staff or intern kind of writing that book because you've got enough material. And in my case, it makes it a little easier for me to write this book because, I've got the background of already material. Some things I didn't write in that book, I can write in this book, and I can also already establish sort of characters, just transfer them over. Anyway.
Well, you know what Andy Rooney says, right, about books? The guy with the bigger name on the cover didn't write the book. Yeah. The guy whose name shows up in small print is the one that wrote the book.
Yeah. And for me, and I don't want to take up too much time, but the thing about that is, and I'm a nobody really and an amateur, and all, I get that, but I can never imagine why I put my name on something that I didn't write, or why would I want to pay someone to write something and use my name? For me, if you're going to write a book, it should be yours, and pretty much all should come from you. So for me, it's kind of like cheating, or it's kind of sleazy. Hey, I'm just going to I'll pay someone to write this. I would never do that. I think if you're going to write something, whether it's a blog, an article, or a book, and your name's on it, that means you did it, period. Yeah. So. But otherwise doing fine. And that's really the focus at this point. So wish me luck.
Final thoughts, Donovan.
Yeah, hooray for Florida, for them. University of Florida has shut down their DEI department in essence. This was because of the law that DeSantis signed. And so there's about $5 million in savings of personnel and contractors related to that. They're going to use the money elsewhere for better purposes, hopefully. So that's good. I mean, we've seen a rapid turnaround, I think, on DEI across the country, where it had been, was adopted very fast. People thought this was the next thing. This was, this is affirmative action. This is the new version of affirmative action, is all it really winds up being. And that's right. But it is dying now. It's across the country. It is dying. And that's great. Whether or not it's at the corporate level, or the education level, it didn't need to be there. It's just been a terrible, terrible thing, to have that in effect. And give some credit to Ron DeSantis for making a big push on this. Texas has done a lot of this as well, and the University of Texas at Austin also has had to rejigger things. I didn't even realize that there were cultural graduations going on across the country. This until I saw this thing about how University of Texas Austin was canceling cultural graduations because of the DEI law in Texas, and I'm like, We have cultural graduations. Whatever happened to just, I see graduation by department. I see the big graduation.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that there were cultural graduations. I know my daughter-in-law is Filipina. I mean, there may have been something at ASU, I guess, that she had participated in. It's fine, but they tend to slice and dice these things. I mean, think of in California they have Long Beach State. I think they had over a dozen different cultural graduations, and they just got kind of crazy. It's like, where was this madness going to end? So hopefully, I don't see an end to it in California, but at least in states like California, in Florida and Texas, that's happening, and in some other areas too. They're just like, no, we're not going to deal with it anymore. It's kind of a little bit like ESG, which had a big run up, and people said, oh, well, that's nothing. This is not what we really want to do, right? Dwight, if you want something, why don't you go to visit the Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle? That's a perfectly fitting stadium, right? Sports arena. Yeah. So watch out. Maybe that'll make its way to whatever the Commanders.
You know what I think would be great, and he's got the money to do this. If Donald Trump bought the naming rights for FedEx Field, so it'd be Donald Trump Field, which would it'd be a finger in the eye to all the Democrats in Maryland, because they'd be going to Donald Trump Field to watch their beloved Redskins.
Well, or name the stadium. Don't change the name yet, but just name the stadium Redskins Stadium and watch the howls go up or something, right?
Actually, it's funny. I bet the stadium authority would reject Donald Trump's money. Let's say if Donald Trump decided, I'll give you $1 billion for 50 years to have the stadium name, they would still reject it, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, and nothing's going to happen with Trump. We know that, because he's got to figure out what to do, how to solve the fine problem in New York, because that whole thing is such ludicrousness. I mean, to see him get that heavy fine, and to have to post a bond for the entire amount. They can't post a bond for a smaller amount. Who was damaged by what happened? This is all political. This is ridiculous, and they should throw this out immediately. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. And it's like, once again, I'm not a huge Trump fan, but this is not a way. There's no justice here at all.
It's theft. It's theft.
It is really. I mean, you're going to let Letitia James and her crew get away with all this kind of stuff? This is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I did like too this judge that upheld the Arizona citizenship voting law. Okay, so I'm sure there'll be more challenges on this, but Judge Bolton said that she didn't see that there was any harm being done by that. I mean, can you imagine if this actually is upheld on appeal or whatever, how many ever things that they got to go through, that they're able to keep this in place, the ramifications of potential across the country and other states that can say, okay, let's go ahead and do the same thing, where proof of citizenship will be necessary to be able to vote. We know what the liberals will react to that, but good for former Governor Ducey for signing this into law. And thank you, Judge Bolton, right now for reaffirming this at this point, and keep sticking it to the liberals and the lefties who are trying to subjugate our whole system and how we do things in this country. It's just such a travesty. And I'm not big on conspiracy theory and election fraud and all this kind of stuff. Some of this happens. There's no doubt about it. But why not have voter integrity? Why not reassure ourselves that if you're casting a vote, you are who you say you are when you cast your vote, whether or not it's in person or by mail. Do that. All right. Over to you, Dwight.
Okay, my final thoughts is one: you only have 16 days, if you don't count today, to get your Shamrock Shake. And also, March is Women's History Month, or as I like to call it, Republican Women's History Month, because it's Republican women who have been the trailblazers of history. The suffragette movement led by Republican women. We had the first woman on the Supreme Court appointed by a Republican president. We've had, the first African American woman Secretary of State, Republican. So, to all the Republican women out there, everyone from Jean Kirkpatrick to Condoleezza Rice and everyone in between, thank you for all you've done for us. Final thoughts. The College Republicans have their convention in April. Everyone should go out there. Hey, Dave, you should try and get an exhibitor table to sell your books there.
Well, where's that?
It's going to be in Baltimore on O'Donnell Street at the Best Western, which used to be the Travel Lodge.
All right. If I don't get lost, I'll do it.
Yeah, it's right off 95. It's hard to get lost. It's just on the other side of the tunnel.
All right, well, you shoot me the info. I'd like to do it.
Don't forget Pizza and Politics. You look like you got some lineup this month.
Oh, yeah, we have. It's March Madness, Pizza and Politics. 3 speakers, 3 weeks. Bonnie Glick. We're working on a very special guest for Pi Day in the STEM field and industry. And then we've got David Bossi for our Pizza and Politics Extra for the month of March. 3 times to visit, and 3 times to have pizza in the month of March. And there is a McDonald's right by the Mama Lucia. So get a Shamrock Shake and for dessert afterwards.
All right. A Shamrock Shake and a cannoli.
Yeah. I don't like cannolis, though. I really don't. But we'll see everyone next week.
All righty.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good one. See you, Susan.